Hey YouTube, it's me again, and I'm coming here with a recap of the second episode of the seventh season of Mad Men. This was a pretty good episode, I thought. I thought it was pretty entertaining, and it just made me roll my eyes a couple of times, made me smile a couple of times. You know, we're definitely seeing a little bit more of where the characters are at and how much they've changed and how much they have not changed. So let's get into it. And since it is Don Draper's show, I think that I should probably start out talking about Don and Sally. So, last year, at the end of the last season, you know, I had my sort of thoughts about what was symbolic in the very last scene of the last season, and I had this idea that, you know, Don was going to end the duality in his life, fess up about his entire life, and be a better man and stop fucking lying. But, of course, that's our Don. How would Don function without lying? So basically we figure out he's been lying to Megan and apparently Betty and his children and everybody in his non-work life, saying that he's still working at the agency, even though we know that he's not. And basically he has Dawn coming in and giving him sort of insider information on what's going on with the accounts and things like that, just keep an eye out on the office. And, you know, I guess he's trying to find himself a new agency or a new business to start or something, but for the meantime he's lying. And Sally ended up going to one of her friends at schools, at the little boarding school or whatever. She ends up going to New York for a funeral for that girl's mother. And, you know, her and her little girlfriends are like, yeah, we can go shopping and it'll be cool. So, first of all, I should say that Sally is in this weird spot where they're trying to make her more this cynical teenage bitch, but I don't know if the actress is playing it right. It just seemed a little bit forced. Like, maybe she should be actually a little, like, 2 years older or something. Anyway, that doesn't matter because Sally and her friends, they end up going to the funeral. They end up going to Greenwich Village to shop, and they're on their way back, but Sally can't find her purse, and her address book is in there, so she wants to try to find it. So she goes to try to look for it, I guess, and for whatever reason she goes into the agency, her dad's office, and she sees that Lou is now in Don's office, and she's very, very confused, and Joan's not there. Joan can't explain what really happened, so she leaves and she's very, very confused. So she goes to Don's house, Don's, you know, condo, whatever you want to call it, and Don is there. She knows what's up. He doesn't know that she knows. So, you know, he agrees that he's going to take her back to the boarding school. She, you know, tells him that she lost her purse and all this stuff, and he agrees to drive her. Right before they're about to leave, Dawn calls because Lou got really mad at Dawn because she wasn't there. Sally came, and she calls Dawn and lets him know that Sally was in the office. So now Dawn knows that Sally knows, but they're both kind of playing it coy for a little bit. And there's this cute moment where, you know, he's like, I'll take you, talking to Sally, I'll take you back to your school or whatever. Do you need a note or anything? And she's like, yeah, that'll be fine. And he's like, well, what should I write on it? And she's like, just tell the truth. So she was throwing a lot of shade. A lot of shade was coming from Sally's POV. So anyway, they start driving, and I guess Don is just out with it. He's like, okay, I know that you went to my office, and why would you let me lie to you, is what he says. It's like, isn't that such an asshole thing to say? This is why I don't like this guy. But, you know, she pouts, and she's just kind of like, she brings up the whole thing about her seeing Dawn with that other woman last year and how it makes her sick and she doesn't want to talk. So anyway, they end up going to this little diner, and that's when Don finally, confesses that he doesn't work there anymore. It was his mistake. He made some bad moves, and he doesn't want to tell Megan because he doesn't want to move to LA. He wants to stay here and sort of build the company or whatever. And in the end, it looks like she gets a little bit more respect for him for telling the truth and for confessing. And at the end, she leaves and she says, "I love you." So it's all good. Don gets his way yet again, even though he's a fucking liar. Let's get into Dawn, Shirley, and Joan and that whole thing, which was pretty good. Now, Dawn, was Don's previous secretary. She's Lou's secretary now. And Shirley is Peggy's secretary. And basically, what happened with Peggy is that it was Valentine's Day and there were long stem roses on Shirley's desk. And she assumed that they were for her, and she assumed that they were from Ted Shaw. Now, what really it was that they were Shirley's flowers. Her fiance sent them to her, and it didn't have a card because she took the card and she went to the bathroom, or she said she went somewhere really quick and she was just going to come back. By the time she came back, Peggy already thought that they were hers, and Shirley tried to interject and say, they're mine, but she let Peggy believe what she believed. So Peggy sends these sort of corny, misinformed messages to Ted Shaw, thinking that he sent them and trying to get back to her good graces, but she's just kind of like, that deal has ended. There's no more pitches being taken for that. It is ended. That's not going to happen. So she's making herself look stupid. And Dawn and Shirley talk about it, and Dawn is just kind of like, well, you know how these people are, just let it go, just let it pass or whatever. And yeah, so Peggy gives the roses back to Shirley because she says she doesn't want them in her office or whatever. Then she comes back out and she sees them still on Shirley's desk and she's about to throw them away, and that's when Shirley confesses that, these are from my fiance. And I was trying to tell you, but I couldn't. And Peggy goes off on her. Basically, it's, she's jealous because she's lonely and Shirley has a fiance and a ring on her finger and he's sending her flowers and everything. So she gets pissed. So Peggy goes to Joan and she wants a new secretary. Now, with Dawn, Lou clearly doesn't respect her at all. And the whole thing with Sally Draper coming in, he calls Dawn and Shirley into the office and is saying, it was Dawn's fault that, he had to have that awkward situation and that he doesn't want to work with her anymore. And Dawn kind of goes off on him. She's like, well, you know what? I was out running one of your errands that you should have run a week ago when I told you about it. And she kind of goes off on him, blows off some steam. Joan is very supportive of Dawn. She's like, I don't think that you want to go off right now. And Dawn goes off anyway. And so Joan puts Dawn at the reception level. And Bert Cooper, who we didn't know was a racist asshole, comes by and is like, you know what, we can't have her in the front because she's black, And Joan is like, oh, do you want me to remove her based on the color of her skin? And, he's basically like, yeah, but he's really coy with it or whatever. Haven't we always liked Bert Cooper? And this is very surprising to me, but not so surprising. So Joan is left pissed off, okay? And Jim, the guy played by, I really want to say Harry Hamlin, but he comes in and she like snaps at him, and he's like, "Oh, I wanted to talk to you about Avon, but I realized that you have two jobs now. You're the head of personnel and you're an accounts man." He was like, "Well, you know what? There's an office upstairs if you want to move into it." And so basically, he's offering her a promotion to be an accounts person, which is awesome. We love Joan, so I was totally smiling on that part. And, you know, she goes upstairs. She gives Dawn her job. And I guess Shirley is probably reception, or I don't know where she is. But anyway, it's cool because Dawn got a promotion and Joan got a promotion. And we like both of them. So that's awesome. Now, there was something that happened with a conference call between Pete and Ted Chaw and Roger and everybody in New York. Sorry, I kind of wasn't paying attention, but the gist that I got from it was that, you know, Pete definitely brought Chevy to the table last season, and they're continually just trying to take him away from it. You know, Chevy, as we know last year, they like Bob Benson, and Bob Benson is still working that account. So I guess there's really no need for Pete to be involved, basically. And he's sour about that, okay? He goes on one of his little typical Pete Campbell bitch fits, and, you know, he goes to talk to Bonnie because he wants a little something, something to relieve his stress. And Bonnie just basically tells him, she basically tells him to get over it. She's just like, you know, and she does real estate, so she's like, you know, our fortune is in other people's hands and we have to take it from them. So she's just basically telling him to get over that one account and move on. Okay, that was Pete. Wow, I'm actually done. I don't think I missed much. There was a little bit with Roger. I don't know. He just seems very not into the work anymore, and not like before where he was just kind of lazy. But I feel like he's a little bit resentful of, you know, people that actually are pulling their weight. You know, he doesn't have Lucky Strike anymore. I forget what is his, you know, if he has brought anything to the table since Lucky Strike left. But yeah, he just seems a little bitter and resentful and overly cynical and stuff about the work. And there was just a moment in the elevator when Jim and Roger were in the elevator together, and he was like, you know what, I hate to think of you as an adversary. I really hate that. So, I don't know. I missed that conference call, so I probably missed a big hunk of some information, but that was Mad Men, guys. Good episode, like I said. I enjoyed it. I went on Twitter for a second, and some of the people weren't enjoying it. They were not liking the writing, but I think overall it was pretty good. I just am disappointed that Don is still a lying a-hole, but I'm happy for, you know, Joan and Dawn and Shirley, I guess. And, you know, it was a good episode. I liked it. It kept me intrigued for the most part, and I am thinking that this season is going to be pretty awesome, okay? Like this video, please comment, share the video, and subscribe to my channel, and I will be coming back next week with a review of episode 3, because that's how it works. Yeah. Bye.